sonic echo that leaves no room for doubt. All the shots bring it back to what it's not. Make a move, do we do? As the world cries tears in our hands, are we all part of a bigger plan? All the shots bring it back to what it's not. Deepest oceans, they can't portray enough empty spaces, time to rust and dust. There's no wonder left for us to love. No warmth or shelter, just satellites above. All the shots bring it back to what it's not. Make a move, do we do? As the world cries tears in our hands, are we all part of a bigger plan? All the shots bring it back to what it's not.
But you should feel me. The sun is setting. Don't trust your hearing. You made a monster. I'm your imposter. Go ahead and wander, but don't trust the water. I'm a member of the deep. I'm a member of the deep.
Well, hello and welcome to the land down under. The World Touring Car Series heads to Mount Panorama, Bathurst, for its 10th race meeting of this season. My name is Conry Maddock, and as ever, I'm joined by Peter Mackay for what should be an enthralling amount of action at a very, very tricky racetrack. Peter, we're here. We have potentially a pretty high chance of a safety car over the course of this one. It's going to be quite tumultuous, potentially, for some of our drivers.
It will be, but I have to say, it's always a treat when you get to go racing at Bathurst. In the real world, they don't run there very often, just a few times a year. There's certain restrictions on the circuit. And in the sim as well, it's not every day that we get to drive on it, but it's just fantastic. And these touring cars up over the mountain, so special. But like you say, no room for error. And if someone makes a mistake in front of you, it can be all arms and elbows and dominoes. So we're in for a really interesting night tonight, but I'm sure the drivers are going to be enjoying it when they get some clean air in front of them. Yeah,
I'm certainly going to be enjoying it as well. This is very much a driver's circuit, I get the feeling, especially when it's got the nickname of Monaco on a mountain here, Peter. That's exactly what it feels like when you get to that mountain section. Those walls, there's basically no distance between those walls and your car at times. That's how close these drivers try to cut it, exactly like at Monaco.
Yeah, they do. I mean, just that tiny little bit. I mean, you'll often see cars coming in with little scrapes on the mirrors as well, so close to they run to the walls, especially on a qualifying lap. In the race, they want to leave a bit more of a margin.
Yep, they absolutely do. And well, let's have a look at the schedule then. We've got Mount Panorama. This is round number 10 of the season here. We are going to be quickly drawing this season of the World Touring Car Series to a close. After this one, we only got 2 race meetings left. One of them is a street circuit. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is going to be up next week. And the week after that, we have our finale at the Fuji Speedway, round number 12 here for this season, where we will crown our champions, plural, given that we have multiple championships on the go at the same time here in the World Touring Car Series. And that segues directly in to the pro standings. Quentin Guinness, of course, he's been the standout performer over the course of this season. He leads by 77 points back to Ross McFarlane. And then we have Steen Ledger in third, Wojciech Savidovic in fourth, with Kieran Harrison in fifth. Stolzenberg, Rushworth, Butler, Holman and Blackhall will round out the top 10 in terms of the pro standings. In the AM standings, however, it looks a little bit like this. It's Benjamin Gregory that leads by quite a rift back to Stefan Schlacker, and we know Stefan Schlacker taking no further part in this series, so the gap between P1 and our official P2 is perhaps a little bit larger, down to Dan Martin there, with Mark Johnson, Stephen Daly a little bit further back. Nick Clibban's currently in 6th with Harry Fox. We've got Blake Stevenson and Malcolm rounding out the top 10 in that instance. Interesting thing to note here, Peter, in this category, I think this is probably the biggest gap that we've seen between P1 and P2 so far this season. It's typically been very close at the top there.
Yeah, it has been. It kind of is a little bit of an anticlimax, a little bit, I'm afraid to say, with Stefan and Dan Martin, etc., having a really big battle. But Ben Gregory's come on very strong, so he deserves the lead. But I do think if Stefan was here, we would be having a really tight battle there. But you've got to be in it to win it. And Ben Gregory, he's been the one putting in those consistent finishes, and he's earned that lead.
Let's have a look at the team standings then, because it is headed up by Pure Sims Esports, though, on 3,710 points, decent amount ahead of SimRC there by Maniti, DKC, a combination of teams making up that monolithic team there in second place, with Pure Sim SimLab in P3. We've got Team PGZ there in P4, with Semper Racing in P5. RD Sim Sports, well, they have 2 of their cars here in this competition. 6th and 7th at the moment between the Pro and the Pro-Am team. You've got Boosted Motorsports there in P8 with SimRC in P9, and Simtech Excite Racing rounds out the top 10. So, Peter, it's been this titanic battle between Pure Sims Esports and SimRC throughout the vast majority of the season. Doesn't look like that's going to change here heading into Bathurst, but it's going to be one of the things that we'll primarily be looking at for these final 3 race meetings.
Yes, it certainly will be. And yeah, we've seen a bit of a rivalry appearing between Pure Sims and SimRC, and that did boil over a little bit post-race 2 weeks ago. How will it turn out when we hit the track here in Bathurst?
Well, we will have to take a very small break here on RaceSpotTV, but don't go away because we will be back for the start of race 1 in just a moment. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back here to the World Touring Car Series here on RaceSpotTV. We're pretty much all set for our 10th race meeting here, Bathurst. And, well, I certainly can't wait to get going. The drivers are just coming towards the end of their qualifying session now. They've got about 2 minutes left remaining where they're able to complete their laps here. A little bit of an extended bit of time for them to do so, given the long lap time around here. Drivers have been in and around the 2:17, 2:18 mark here in qualifying, and I can give you an update in terms of qualifying. Ross McFarlane currently pole position with Wojciech Savinovic, P2. That's a great qualifying performance there, Peter, all things considered. It's not something that we've been used to seeing in this season. Maybe in previous seasons, yes, but not in this one.
No, and Gina is back in on the second row as well, in 4th position. That's a little bit of a surprise. Of course, he's got the gap back to McFarlane, you know, so he's got room to play with. But that's interesting, and yeah, about 0.3 of a second off our outright pace at the Ross McFarlane. So 3 rounds to go. Let's see how they get on.
Absolutely. We see one of the RD Sim Sport cars here coming towards the very end of their lap here. This is James Holman, I believe. Yes, it is. The 104 car in 15th place here at the moment, and, well, in 9th place in terms of the standings here at this current moment in time. Hasn't... going to get himself towards the end of the lap here. Of course, lap number 7 of his session so far. There's no lap limit here in this open qualifying session, but Holman will dive down on towards the safety of pit lane and bring that car down and in. In terms of everyone else, though, it seems like that is going to be the final car that at least was out there on circuit. Everyone else has completed their laps or decided to abort their final qualifying lap here. So our grid is pretty much set here heading into race number 1. If you're unfamiliar with how the World Touring Car Series works, we'll have 3 races here today. The first one, starting grid, will be set based off this qualifying session, and then in race 2 and race 3, we will have the grid for those set by a reverse grid based on the results of the previous race, and that's going to be a random reverse grid we'll decide beforehand as well. So a lot to look forward to here at Mount Panorama. Let's take you through the starting grid for race 1. Ross McFarlane will start pole position with Wojciech Savinovic in P2. Steen Ledger P3 with Quentin Guinness P4. Morgan Butler will start in 5th with Jürgen Frank in 6th place. Esteban Rodriguez in P7 with Bram Van Putten starting in 8th. Konstantin Stolzenberg starts 9th with Dame Nolan Harris in P10. Pete Newman starts 11th with Miguel Freitas in 12th. In P13, we have Jamie Rush with P14 goes to Dominic Kortum here for the race start. James Holman will start from 15th with Benjamin Gregory in 16th place. Mark Johnson in 17th with Sam Smith starting 18th. Nick Clibbons will start in 19th with Marcel Fritsch in P20. Carl Johnson will start P21. Neil Rocks P22. Neil Stevenson P23. Luke Arabia P24. Further back through the field, you got Jake Blackhall starting P25 with Rafael Drage there in P26. Craig Williams starts P27 with Daniel Martin, Harry Fox and Rob Turner rounding out the top 30 cars. Then you've got the stragglers towards the bottom end of the field, those that have had qualifying bans and such. So that's John Roberts, Sean Gardner, Rob Sutherland and Scott Malcolm running up the 34 car starting grid that we have here today at Mount Panorama. Everyone getting themselves ready to go here on the start-finish straights at Bathurst, and soon we'll have that very short run, Peter, down in towards turn number 1. The cars are not going to have much of a chance to string themselves out.
No, they don't. They never do.
Chance to string themselves out.
No, they don't. They never do at Bathurst. So getting that good start is going to be really important for that rush down to turn 1 and getting a good run up the hill as well. And you really want to be as far forward as possible. You don't want to get bunched in on that opening lap.
Yeah, you absolutely don't, but we will be going racing here at the mountain here in Australia. We're off and away. Green flag for race meeting number 10 for the World Touring Car Series. Ross McFarlane leads them down in towards turn number 1. Single filed out, at least in terms of the front couple of positions. A bit of side-by-side action going on further back as they all try to pick their way through and negotiate that turn number 1 as we head down the straight now, as you can see how this track undulates up and down, and once we get through Griffin's Bend we'll start the climb out of the mountain. Ledger coming under pressure from Corentin Guinness early on here on these initial corners, but even Guinness slips in behind for the mountain section. This is where things start to get a little tricky, Peter.
It is, yeah. They're coming up towards the cutting now. Very, very tricky part of the circuit. Blind left-hander, and then into a very, very tight left-hander. But up the hill, the leading cars, McFarlane leading them away with Savidovic right there in second position. But the drivers all keeping it nice and neat and tidy so far. Good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's going to be, well, I'm not going to mention it in case I jinx it, so we'll get this first lap clean and done first before we start mentioning the elephant in the room. But as we do have a car around, Sam Smith's involved in it. Someone's had a big shot there into the car that was spun in the middle of the circuit. No one else got involved, so I think there was only a 2-car incident, so we should be safe. I think it was Rob Turner that is slow out there on circuit here at the moment, but again, it's so lucky that I didn't catch anyone else out. Someone else has had a problem there. Marcel Fritsch has now collected another car that was completely an innocent bystander in that one, as Fritsch just pacing the car around, stacking up everyone behind him. He might even take the tow back to the pit lane.
Great start to the race from our AM class leader, Ben Gregory. He's up there in 14th position at the moment, so looking very, very good at the moment. Our AM championship leader as they fire down Conrad and then through the chase into the chicane here as well. Really, really cool part of the circuit, so uniquely Bathurst.
It absolutely is. Into those final couple of corners of the lap. It's been a pretty calm affair, I dare to say, at the very front of the field. Drivers treating this racetrack with the utmost respect, which is what you simply have to do here. It can really bite you in the butt if you decide to take a little bit too much out of it. But coming across the line to complete that lap number 1, it is Ross McFarlane leading from Savidovic from Ledger. Further back through the field, you have a bit of side-by-side action into T1. Harris on the outside of Miguel Freitas. Freitas potentially on the charge here. We've also got Jamie Rushworth sticking his nose into this situation as well. He'll get himself alongside with the overlap on Freitas, trying to follow through in the tyre tracks of Damon Owen Harris, but this mountain straight is so long. There's a wealth of drafting opportunities as Freitas tries to swing it around the outside to try and defend, but it's all in vain.
Yeah, and Jamie Rushworth gets past there as well as Owen Harris, Freitas trying to tough it out there as well. Owen Harris and Freitas, they've got a lot of experience racing against each other in TCR machinery as they go side by side up towards Reed Park and Sullivan Park. This is, you don't want to be running side by side there for too long, sort themselves out. I think they just about do. Yes, as they come through up towards McPhillamy Park and then out towards Skyline. And such a cool part of the circuit. You're really right on the edge, almost running out over the curb there as well, and then through Skyline and through the S's, through the Dipper, and it's just one big massive helter-skelter. And if you just get out of shape at the top of that hill, you're paying for it all the way down to the Forest Elbow.
You are, and it's such a roller coaster coming down here. It's a lot of fun as the driver, as long as you keep the walls out of your mind, I suppose. There's our AM class winner, not AM class winner, excuse me, not at the moment anyway, AM class leader, Mark Johnson. Holding on quite well here for the moment. It was Benjamin Gregory that started a little bit further up the road, but unfortunately for Gregory, seems like he's lost those positions off for the start there. So that's going to be unfortunate. Well, he lost that one position off for the start. It was Johnson that was able to get by. We're on board with Gregory now, actually. Your AM class leader for the moment. Oh, I'm leader in points. I'm confused today. I'm so tired.
Yeah, championship leader. Yeah, just relinquished the lead in class in the race to Mark Johnson ahead of there as running on board with Nick Clibbins, who's got Jake Blackwell ahead of him. It's really a surprise there that Blackwell's as far back in the order.
Yeah, that was a surprise, at least looking at qualifying. He has been able to gain a couple of positions from where he started. He's at +7 on the day, but it wasn't a fantastic qualifying session for Jake Blackwell. Well, you would expect that...
Quali ban, maybe?
Potentially. Yeah, well, he didn't set a time in qualifying, so that might be the reason why. Thank you very much for pointing that one out, Peter. We had a lot of drivers, actually, that had qualifying bans here today, so that may indeed explain it. There's Quentin Guinez actually potentially getting himself swamped by Pure Sims cars here for the moment, and Rodriguez getting himself involved in that one as well, so Guinez in potentially a bit of trouble here. Here's the onboard with Jürgen Frank as he tries to press forwards on all of this. Less than 15 minutes to go here in race number 1, and this leading train very much keeping it, well, the leading pack is keeping itself together of 3, but there's also the secondary pack from podium positions and back that we also have to be concerned about as well.
Guinez really is in a Pure Sims gaggle there. He's got to be careful, as Guinez, our championship leader. He doesn't need to score big points, but he does still need to score. So just got to try and keep it nice and clean and tidy in these races. It's a difficult part of the season for Guinez, although he's leading the championship. 3 rounds to go, still 9 races including this one, and it's easy to get white line fever at this stage. You can see, having known what happened to him last season, came in with a big lead into this round and lost it in the last round. I wonder if that's swirling around his head at the moment as Savinovic hits the front here in the World Touring Car Series. Fantastic, rolling back the years.
You stole the exact phrase that I was going to use there, Peter. There we go. Savinovic to the race lead, battling in behind as well. Morgan Butler, Steen Ledger, Corentin Guinez, all scrapping over this final podium position here for the moment. The 2 Pure Sims teammates go side by side. Guinez tries to find the line through, tries to make it 3 wide, but the lane is blocked coming off the corner for him. But now heading down in towards turn number 1, there's an opening to the inside that Guinez can use. He sent it 3 wide into turn number 1 on the 2 Pure Sims cars, and somehow he's been able to make that work. What a move from your championship leader. He's not safe though. There's still this armada of Pure Sims cars, but he's got backup. The cavalry's arrived behind.
Wow, and they're not going to be gentle with Corentin Guinez, are they? The Pure Sims crew, they're going to be fighting hard with the rival of their teammate Ross McFarlane, who's up there in second position right behind their leader Savinovic. But Ledger tries to tough it around the outside, and he gets hung out to dry there to head through Quarry Bend and up towards the cutting now. And this is getting very, very tight, and already Guinez just pulling a couple of car lengths there from Ledger. So let's see what Guinez can do now. He's got 4.8 seconds up towards McFarlane in second place, but more, how much space can he put between himself and the chasing pack?
Yeah, that's the main thing here. The Jürgen Franks really helped Corentin Guinez here, tried to establish the gap on the cars behind. Still not quite out of drafting distance just yet, which will be the important thing for the 888 car, but it's still progress being made. We're looking back from Steen Ledger there briefly, on board with Stolzenberg, who's well solidified himself in this pack here for the moment, and so we'll have to see what he can do there. He's apart from Damon Owen Harris at the back of this one, he's the only non-Sim RC or Pure Sims car involved in this one at the moment, so a bit on his lonesome there. But as we exit out of the mountain section and head our way down the Conrod Straight towards the chase, again another big drafting zone for these cars. Everyone's spaced out in this instance though, however, as we head our way towards that kink at 10:20.
Speaking of 20 and 20th place, an update for fans of the Frank Biela of WTCS. Craig Williams in the sole Audi, he's there in 20th position at the moment as well. Of course, a winner last time out. A Road Atlanta, that's the closest you'll get to having an accident without having one. My goodness. Esteban Rodriguez.
Yeah, race lead also briefly swapped positions there as well. Savinovic and McFarlane are deciding that they want to have a little bit of a squabble over the top spots with the rest of the battles going on about 3.5 seconds behind them. So they do have a little bit of a buffer to be able to have this fight here. They just have to be careful not to lose too much time to Corentin Guinez, Steen Ledger and all those others behind them. But for Ross McFarlane, sticking his nose right underneath the rear bumper. Not going to make the move in towards turn number 2 this time around, but he's definitely applying a lot of pressure to your current race leader.
Yeah, Guinness last time by was 0.3 of a second slower than McFarlane and about 0.2 of a second slower than Savidovic. So Guinness not making up time as yet, although it was struggling to kind of break away from the pack that last time. We'll see what the lap times are coming in from Guinness over the next couple of laps, but it's going to be a tall order to catch these two leaders unless they start fighting. But you never know. The thing for McFarlane is second place isn't really good enough with the way the gap is in the championship, Connery. He's got to get this win on the board. Second place, he cannot afford to give away any points if there's a chance to get this win.
Yeah, because the championship gap has narrowed a little bit over recent rounds between Guinness and McFarlane. It stands at 77 points here at the moment. It was more like over 100 at one point over the course of this season. So it's McFarlane, if he can get these consistent finishes a good couple of spots ahead of Guinness, then potentially he might be still within a shot of the Pro Championship at the very end of the season. It's a very big ask, especially given that, yes, it is still a 77-point buffer. However, it's not an impossible gap to surmount. And, well, one thing that will really help at the moment is getting a race lead away here from Savidovic.
Yeah, he's definitely got to put a car in between himself and Guinness to have any kind of chance of building an advantage. Is Ben Gregory battling away for the lead in class, with Mark Johnson, and Johnson takes it back again. I was racing with Ben Gregory earlier in the week, albeit he was in the GT3 class, I was in GT4, but it was good to see a few of the boosted drivers out there.
I was going to say, that's not really racing with Ben Gregory. It's on the same racetrack.
No, I was in his way. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that then. I'll take that. But for now, Mark Johnson is ahead of Ben Gregory. But these guys have been having a fantastic little duel over the course of this one. And so, well, speaking of fantastic little duels, there's the battle for the race lead going on. Heading their way out of turn number 2. McFarlane still has that slight overlap as they head their way through turn number 3 into the cutting. Still no opportunity here for McFarlane. Certainly turning up the heat at this stage, though. They've lost a little bit of time to those cars behind as well. Gap now down to around about a second between P2 and P3. It did stand at about 3.7 at one point just a couple of laps ago. So McFarlane, it's kind of a tricky situation he's in at the moment, because even if he does get himself up into P1, I doubt he'll be able to break the draft back to Savidovic. So Savidovic should be harassing him throughout the entirety of the final couple of laps if he does get past.
I think McFarlane might just have to wait for the last lap,
Yeah.
I think that might be the most sensible, because even just a tiny little bit of battling there, Guinness took half a second out of Ross McFarlane last lap around. So, there's only 2.8 seconds the gap right now. So he's got to be a little bit careful here as well and plot his attack carefully. But one thing we know is that very few drivers, if any, have the intellect in battle that Ross McFarlane does. That's why he's got that number 1 plate on the car. But just as I say that, he's going to try and make a move at the chase. The big scary 6-gear corner. Here he goes.
Easily done there for McFarlane. Slams on the anchors as well to try and get the car slowed down for the chase. A very competent pass there for McFarlane. He gets himself back up into the race lead, but now the roles are reversed somewhat. McFarlane's going to have to be the one defending from Savidovic, and Savidovic has already proved that he can get past at least once earlier on, so there's no reason why he can't do it again.
Well, let's see. Savidovic, I'm sure, will be very hungry for a win, especially a Race 1 win, which is purely on grid merit. They qualify in order for Race 1, so to be able to get a win in Race 1 is a big deal in this championship, as competitive as it is. As Konstantin Solzenberg there getting his elbows out in and amongst some of the Pure Sims drivers. Now, riding on board with Rodriguez, he's got Bram van Putten, the Dutchman, right ahead of him in the SimRC machine. And thought he was going to have a look there. Oh, big twitch there for Bram Putten. The car looks nervous.
Yeah, and if there's one track where you don't want a nervous car, it's here at Mount Panorama at Bathurst. There we go. And, well, battle for the AM class lead going on as well. Mark Johnson versus Ben Gregory, another little side-by-side moment. Gregory not very happy about whatever situation happens there in through turn 2. The universal driver language of flashing the lights, it can only be a good thing, right?
Yeah, it can mean all kinds of things. It's all about interpretation, I suppose. But game on here now. Guinness is being caught by Ledger.
Oh.
Ledger's gonna have a big look. Oh, they make contact. Oh, Ledger has a little bit of a loose one. Oh, big punt from the back from Jürgen Frank there. So Ledger had a go, and look at that! Just as quick as that. Whoa. A couple of seconds lost by Guinness to the cars in front of him as well. So, but in that little exchange, Guinness has now put a little bit of breathing space between himself and Ledger. He did escape it, just.
Yeah, Ledger got himself a bit of a slowdown penalty, or rather, was it Butler or was it Ledger that got himself a slowdown penalty? We'll have to rewind the tapes, but Jürgen Frank
Ledger.
yeah, it was Ledger. Jürgen Frank all over the back of Butler, sends it to the inside on him through the chase here. Racing room is given through the middle of the corners. That's not necessarily always the case between these two teams, so it's great to see it. Morgan Butler, though, defensive to the middle of the circuit into the final corner. Jürgen Frank takes the normal line, gets the best speed off, but the run is blocked slightly just by the car being directly on his nose there. Into turn number 1 now. This is, 3:30 to go. Oh, is that Johnson? It is Johnson. That was in the battle for the AM class lead, and that car is not heading its way out of the gravel trap. Must have been some significant wheel or suspension damage to that car, and was it involving Gregory as well? We'll just have to wait and see. As far as the replay is concerned, here's Butler and Frank once again going at it on the way into turn number 2. Frank again taking that big wide arc in. He tags the back of Butler. He spins him in front of traffic. Collects his teammate slightly as well, does Butler. Oh, that one will be looked at for sure after the race.
Whoa, this is getting very spicy between these two outfits, between Pure Sims and Sim RC. So many quick drivers. Now, let's see what happened with Johnson and Gregory. They're absolutely glued together, side by side, as they head down towards the final. Oh, dear.
Oh dear.
Need to get another look at that, actually. It all happened quite quick.
It did all happen very quickly. Yeah, we'll have to look back at that one. But yeah, two very interesting incidents happening back to back at different places on the circuit as well. As we have a look down the hill. Oh, who was that? Oh no, that's Van Putten. Van Putten's around in the middle of the mountain, and somehow everyone else was able to squeak by.
All carnage going on behind there. And Guinness, he just escaped it at just the right moment, didn't he? If he'd been in the middle of that, that could have been no points being scored. But luckily for him, he's out there in that third position, kind of clear of all that melee. Meanwhile, at the front, Guinness will be hoping that Savidovic does him a big favour here. Now, this is another look. This is going to give us a great look. And who would want to be a steward? Wow.
Definitely not me.
It almost like they both drove towards each other. It wasn't as if either car was going straight there, but it's hard to tell sometimes with the curvature of the road too. But oh dear.
I've already gotten in trouble so far this season. I don't need to be in trouble again. But let's have a look on the exit of turn 2. That one's a bit more obvious though.
Yes, that's. I think they call that in NASCAR getting dumped.
Yeah. Chrome worn out, even though it isn't chrome on the front of these cars, but you know what I mean. But final lap though, battle for the race lead going on. Savidovic versus McFarlane on the way in towards turn number 2. Savidovic the long way around is not usually all that successful on the outside of turn 2, but still able to carry a bit of momentum. Still the tiniest of overlaps, and well, it's McFarlane that has to respect it, and Savidovic gets to the inside for the cut-in, climbing the hill now. McFarlane slots himself ahead. Another chunk of lost time to Guinness, although he still might be, they'll have to do that a few times over on this lap for Guinness to be factoring in. It might just be these two battling it out for the race win at the end today. McFarlane needing these points to stay within a shout of the championship.
Well, we all think it's one line down here, but just tell that to Jake Dennis and Matt Campbell. Coming into these corners here, Matt Campbell pulling off the most unbelievable manoeuvre to win the 2019 Bathurst 12 hours. Oh, mistake from Savinovic. Mistake from Savinovic. Will that be critical? Couldn't get close enough to make that move. This is the Matt Campbell corner here, and yeah, can't quite get a move done there. Savinovic flashing his light. He's not quite sure what the problem is, but and more. Now, is this a replay of earlier on of what happened to Van Putten? He got turned.
Yeah, he did get turned. However,
final
lap into the final sector. I think Savinovic's mistake on the mountain might have cost him a chance at the race win here. He's simply not close enough to make a move into the chase here. He needs a stellar sequence of corners. He needs a mistake from McFarlane to make this happen. I get the feeling. Out of the chase for the final time. Coming into the final corner now of this race number 1. And it will be Ross McFarlane, as long as he can negotiate the corner, coming out of the final corner to come across the line to take the race 1 win here at Bathurst. Savinovic with a very well worked second place, and Corentin Guinness comes home final step of the podium. In terms of those cars behind, in terms of the AM class as well, it is Benjamin Gregory that takes the race win there. However, of course, this is pending steward's review, because that incident with Johnson did look a little, well, to use a cool kid's term, sus.
Does that mean, is that short for suspect?
Suspect, suspicious. It's from Among Us, if you know that game.
I see. See. No.
Generational gap, everyone.
But I got the general idea.
But across the line, the rest of the runners start to dribble their way through. Checkered flag out here at in race number 1. Before we get to see our race results, though, our unofficial race results, we'll get to have a little bit of a look at who's going to be reverse grid pole position for race number 2. Let's spin that wheel. Need I remind everyone, we have not had a full reverse grid so far this season, so that is still on the cards here at Bathurst. It will be a cruel track to have it happen, and I get the feeling... There it is. Has it got momentum? It has momentum. It's not a full reverse grid. It's P18, which is still a healthy size reverse grid. It means the Audi of Craig Williams, the Frank Bieler of World Touring Car Series, gets himself on pole position for race number 2. There we go. Here's the unofficial race results. Ross McFarlane wins by 0.3 of a second to Savinovic. Then you've got Guinness in 3rd. Steen Ledger 4th with Jürgen Frank 5th. Stolzenberg finishes 6th with Damon Owen Harris, Jamie Rushworth, Miguel Freitas, and Esteban Rodriguez rounding out the top 10. Second page results, we got James Holman in P11 with Dominic Corton P12, Jake Blackwell P13 with Morgan Butler in 14th. AM class winner is Benjamin Gregory. Nick Clibbons, 2nd place in AM. Pete Newburn is 17th overall with Craig Williams in P18. That's the reverse grid pole position. Daniel Martin will be kicking himself. He narrowly misses out on a reverse grid pole position there in 19th with Loic Rabia in P20. Further down the order, you have John Roberts, Sean Gardner, Rob Sutherland, Scott Malcolm, Bram Van Putten, who was involved in an incident on the mountain, still actually finishing on the leading lap there, which is quite impressive. Mark Johnson in P26 with Sam Smith P27. Rob Turner P28 is your final driver on the leading lap. The rest of the drivers 1 lap down or more. Neil Rocks and Marcel Fritsch, the first 2. Then you got Neil Stevenson, Carl Johnson, and Rafael Jaj rounding out the 33 car finishing results. But we are by no means done here in the World Touring Car Series. We still have 2 more races to go, and with an 18-car reverse grid, that's going to be a pretty big issue for some of our drivers, especially those that get the bad end of it. Ross McFarlane, Savinovic, Guinness, Ledger, Frank, all those, the names that we usually see towards the top of the order, starting 18, 17, 16, 15. On a circuit where a first lap can be very chaotic, and they're in the prime position to get caught up in something on that first lap.
They are, but that could have been worse. That was so close to a full reverse, and they would have had over 30 spaces to make up. I mean, quite a different thing. However, as we saw at World GT a few months ago, Josh Thompson starting right at the back. If you are right at the back, you can hold back and watch the chaos happen in front of you. 18th is pretty much spot on in the middle of the pack. So if it kicks off, you are in the middle of it. You are in the eye of the storm.
You're absolutely in the thick of things, and this is a track where you do not want to be in the thick of things, because there could so easily be a track blockage that either you're part of causing or happens ahead of you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. And then, of course, we'll have to call the safety car in that situation and shorten the race distance. But it was an intriguing first race. It was a very clean first lap, which is very, very surprising, especially given some of the races that we've had so far this season. I think I said it at the time, Peter, a lot of drivers really respected the circuit here today.
They did. You could see that in that opening race for sure. Whether that will carry over into race 2 and 3, by the form books usually shows that it does get a little bit more chaotic in 2 and 3 because there is a bit more of a mix of pace. However, Bathurst does definitely to strike that air of fear into the drivers usually. So we'll see how it plays out in these opening stages. It does mean if we did get a safety car and you've taken big damage, it is not by no means race over, especially on a lap as long as this, because as long as you can get back to the pits on your own power, you've got a fast repair. So you get basically a brand new spare car, and you'll be able to keep on the lead lap. And when you go back to green, you're in the pack, and you kind of get another go at it. So, I like that, because I think you want to keep as many cars in the race as possible. You don't want half the field sitting in pit lane having a cup of coffee. You want everyone out there competing.
You absolutely do.
Or if you're Frank Biela, a cigarette.
I don't know if Craig Williams is a smoker, so I don't know if he can actually do the cosplay.
He's going to have to pick it up if not.
Yeah, we'll have to ask if he gets to give himself a good result here today. I mean, he has had the habit of capitalizing on reverse grids, beneficial positions in the reverse grid, not necessarily pole, but you know what I mean. So it might just be a situation that Craig Williams potentially gets himself another race win in this series, which is, we weren't expecting the first one, I'll be completely honest, at Road Atlanta, but he might even be on for a second one, depending on what sort of situation happens behind him.
Oh, he could be. It could be, and we'll see how it plays out. It would just be the Frank Biela thing to do, wouldn't it? Just tear off at the at the front. And we know that Audi does get off the line well. Too. It's got good straight line grunt as well, or it usually does. So we'll see. We could see Craig Williams doubling up a second week in a second win in 2 race meetings. That would be cool.
That would be very, very cool indeed. And, at least in terms of his points situation coming into today, I'm just having a very, very quick look to see actually where he is. It's a struggle to actually find him on the list here. I'm just trying to scroll down and see exactly where he's at. But it's certainly in a position where those points will be an absolutely massive help as far as climbing the order is concerned here in the pro standing. So he's definitely potentially going to be looking forward to how this race turns out. Before we head into this one, though, Peter, I do want to talk about the whole McFarlane and Guinness situation. Guinness did well to keep himself out of trouble over the course of this one. Let's just say that there were multiple instances that happened ahead behind him. He was just in the right place at the right time, was able to squeak through on all of it. That could have easily been a very big point swing in the favour of McFarlane. It's still a swing in his favour, but not as significant as it could have been.
Exactly, and it puts Guinness now in the position where he can really flaunt his speed and flaunt his effectiveness in traffic. This season he has been so effective in traffic to get through to the front, and that's kind of neutralised the advantage that Ross McFarlane used to have of maximising those reverse grid races. Guinness has brought that into his locker this season, and now starting 16th on the grid, McFarlane will start 18th. Don't be surprised to see Guinness coming through the field and getting a really good score. And then, of course, he only needs to finish a couple of spots in front of McFarlane to basically neutralise the points advantage that was given away in race 1. So Gina is playing this one very well, and it almost seemed like he could sense that all was about to go Pete Tong, and he's like, I think I need to get out of this group. I need to escape from this group because this is about to go crazy. And well, if he did think that, he was right.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, coming into this second race, starting that so far back, there's not going to be a lot of room to be able to go for those gaps that magically appear when an incident happens. So that's going to be a particularly contentious issue for Guinness and everyone else who starts back there. But we're about to head into our second race server of the day here. We'll get ourselves a good couple more minutes in terms of warm-up for these drivers here as well. I do want to touch on something else, though, Pierre. That incident that we saw between Johnson and Gregory, that was for the AM class lead at the very end there. I said it was sus at the end. I had to explain what sus was, which is, yeah, whatever. But at least from my point of view, there was a slight move across by Ben Gregory. However, I would need to have a look at the replay myself and get myself a better view of it to really come to a conclusion. And even then, my thoughts mean completely nothing, because it's the steward's thoughts that mean the most in this situation. But with how hard they were fighting, I think potentially things might have gotten a little bit too hot for both of them to handle.
Well, development in the virtual paddock, Ben Gregory has actually held his hands up on that one. He said, Mark, mate, I'm so sorry. I am taking bits out of it. I am so sorry. I'll hold my hands up on that. So yeah, Ben, that's sign of a true gentleman and sportsman. To just if you make an error, hold your hands up and move on. That fair play there as well. And then it's up to the stewards to decide what they do about it.
Yeah, we absolutely need more of that in sim racing and in the real world as well. To be fair, to be able to hold your hands up and say, that's my fault, that's my instance, and I'll take the punishment. As
they were racing so hard, weren't they?
Yeah,
they were really going at it.
Yeah, and sometimes you just get that little bit too close, especially with regards to racing on the internet, shall we say. You can't quite get as close as you would in the real world with rubbing doors and such, but it doesn't stop some of them, especially in this series. We've got about 4 minutes to go before we get ourselves our starting grids formed for race number 2 here. And, well, we're a little bit later on in the day here as well. Track temperature at a scorching 45 degrees Celsius here. That is very, very toasty, and it's going to mean these tyres just are going to be very, very struggling a lot towards the end of this race. And it'll be interesting to see how the drivers deal with that, because tyre wear, even though you wouldn't have thought in a 20-minute race that would be a really big issue, it's something the drivers actually do very much pay attention to here, because that could make or break a final move on the last lap should push come to shove.
Yeah, I think tyre temperature is certainly a worry. I mean, if the tyre overheats and goes up to above its operating window, it's very hard to get it back down again. The only maybe saving grace is coming up the mountain straight and down Conrod Straight, but it's going to heat up much quicker than it cools down, basically, especially in these conditions. So the right-hand side tyre, particularly, obviously, the right front, which is having to steer and put nearly 400 horsepower through it. Don't forget, those front wheels are having to deal with an awful lot. That front right tyre is going to be getting pounded, especially coming up over the mountain too. So, yeah, tyres are without a doubt a consideration here. And who's very good at tyre management? Ross McFarlane.
Absolutely. However, I don't know how much tyre management you'd be able to do starting from P18. That's the problem there.
But it's that patience, just with letting the race come to you. He's always been good at that. You think 5 minutes to go, and you think Ross McFarlane is back in 12th. Maybe not such a good race. And then the checker flag comes out, and all of a sudden he's in 4th. You go, how did you do that?
always pulls it out of the bag when it's required. Does Ross McFarlane? It's been a bit more of a struggle over the course of this season. That's definitely not up for debate. Guinness has definitely been head and shoulders above everyone else. However, McFarlane's keeping himself in it. He's got that fighting spirit, so to speak, and he is still in a position where a couple of good races compared to Guinness, and he's straight back in it as far as championship is concerned towards the end of this one. So definitely don't count him out. He's looked very, very quick indeed here at Bathurst. Same with Savidovic, to be fair as well. Savidovic kept with him throughout that entirety of race number 1. So he's in a very, very good situation as well. Potentially very good race weekend for Savidovic as well. But Guinness is the one that's potentially is going to be the driver that's going to be laser focused on over the course of this, because he's the one that didn't quite have the pace in qualifying, didn't quite have the pace of the front two in race number 1. So I'll be very interested to see how he negotiates this second race, especially given there's a whole bunch more traffic involved now.
Yeah, this we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. Very, very, very difficult to make any kind of prediction, because a little bit that first lap especially is going to be a little bit of Russian roulette, I would think.
Yeah, I think so too. And well, let's see what Craig Williams is able to do from pole position. He's 11th in the point standings here at the moment, so he's on the edge of breaking into the top 10 in the pro order. This might be the race that he's able to do so. But there's a whole bunch of drivers hungry for their race wins further behind as well that will definitely want to get themselves stuck in. And of course, we'll have hard-charging drivers starting from P18, P17, P16, McFarlane, Ledger, Guinness, Savidovic, all trying to push their way through at a very, very tricky circuit indeed as well. Checkered flag is indeed out here as in the practice session, so in a couple of moments' time we'll be getting ourselves our starting grid for our second race of the evening. We have 3 races in total this evening, so even once the checkered flag drops here on this race, you'll want to stick around because we'll have another race and we'll potentially get a whole bunch of action in that one as well. But here's the starting grid. It is Craig Williams from the Craig Setup Shop team. 77 Audi, our only Audi in the field, starts in P1 with Pete Newman P2. Nick Clemens starts in third with Ben Gregory 4th, Morgan Butler 5th, and Jake Blackhall in 6th. Then Dominic Cortum 7th with James Holman P8, Stephen Rodriguez P9, Miguel Freitas P10, Rushworth and Harris start P11 and 12. Stolzenberg, Frank, Ledger, Guinness, Savidovic and McFarlane will round out the top 18. Those are the reverse grid positions. Everyone else starts exactly where they finished in race number 1. They are cycling their way through on your screens right now. Rob Turner will bring up the order in the 33rd spot towards the very back of the starting grid. It's a bright orange Audi, the Frank Wheeler of the World Touring Car Series. Craig Williams starts from pole position. Can he hold on to it here, at least in the early goings? We're just moments away from finding out at Mount Panorama in the World Touring Car Series race meeting number 10. Race 2 is underway and charging down towards turn number 1 we go. Craig Williams able to slot himself ahead there in P1. There was a big send down towards the inside though. Gregory losing a good couple of spots there on his way through turn 1. Lost the spot to Butler, lost the spot to Blackwell, and now in the process of losing the spot to Dominic Cortum as well. Oh, 2 tyres in the grass there from Pete Newman as he tries to go for the race lead down the end of the mountain straight. Sends it to the inside at turn number 2. New race leader, Pete Newman.
Pete Newman had to be very brave there, didn't he? Craig Williams thought about showing him the full block and then thought, oh, that's a bit harsh. I better give him some room now, just at the last moment. And Pete takes it there as well. And yeah, nothing wrong with the pace of that Hyundai Veloster up the hill. Nothing Craig Williams could do about it, really. However, as they get into the twisties, here comes the Audi. Here comes our very own Frank Wheeler, Craig Williams, up into the lead he goes again. So nothing wrong with the corner speed of that Audi. The old dog's got plenty of tricks left in the boot.
It does. Williams back to the pointy end as they head their way through here on the top of the mountain. into Skyline they come. That starts the big descent, riding the brakes, coming down into some of these corners. And, well, everyone's strung out single file, as you kind of have to be at this section of the circuit. No big incidents, though, although we do have a spinner. Someone in the wall there, just out of Skyline. Didn't quite see who that was. Might have been Scott Malcolm, potentially. Got himself in trouble on the mountain, but we've negotiated the hill, though, for the second time of asking on a first lap in quite comfortable fashion. So I think all the drivers can take a bow in that sense. Battle for P2, though. Pete Newman versus the driver, Morgan Butler. Side by side through the kink. Oh, they almost make contact. Do those two, the two teammates. That would have been a very messy situation for Pure Sim Lab to pick up.
Oh, a little bit wide there from Craig Williams. He's really pushing hard into that Audi RS3 LMS at the moment, and has to go to the defensive there as they come into Murray's. What do Snetterton and Bathurst have in common? Their last corner is both in both circuits is called Murray's.
There we go. And to the first lap there.
Pub quiz.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, I have all of these, answers for pub quiz, motorsports-related pub quiz questions now from commentating with you on this series. So that's beneficial for me. But battle for the race lead going on once again. Morgan Butler driver's left-hand side on the way down the mountain straight, but Craig Williams is going to pick up a little bit of speed here towards the end of the straight. It seems like that top end of the Audi is slightly better than the Elantra going the long way around. Oh, they almost come together once again. Still absolutely level as they start the climb up the hill now. Craig Williams, he's really fighting for this one. Oh, he tags the wall, and it sends him back into a battle with Newman instead. Oh, he could have done without that, but he's going to continue to scrap for every position possible, almost banging doors as Newman in the wall. Newman in the wall, and he cycles back into the traffic, and there's a big one. Ledger spun in front of traffic. Oh, what has happened there? No one else collected in that apart from seemingly the original instigator of the accident.
Oh dear, not so good. And Craig Williams is going to hope that little skiff with the wall hasn't caused too much damage, but very, very lucky if you have got away with that. But Newman hit the wall pretty hard, getting kind of pancaked into it there. Big question mark there, it must be said. Good run from Jake Blackwell, the number 97, having served a quali ban. He's up there fighting for the podium in race 2.
Indeed he is. Fantastic performance from him to be able to put himself in that position. Look at that long string of cars coming down the Conrod straight there. Fantastic stuff indeed. Here's a replay of what happened.
Oh, he got hit.
Oh, he did get hit.
Oh!
There was an RD car involved. I don't know which one. That is the number 104. So that's James Holman.
Yeah, James Holman just getting into the back there of Ledger. He won't be happy about that at all. But down into Murray's they go. What a dramatic start to the race. But Morgan Butler now into his rhythm, and he's pulled a second back to second place of Craig Williams. And Newman, we just don't know how much damage he's got on that Hyundai Veloster for Pure Sim Lab. There goes Gregory up there, making a move up the inside of Nick Clibbins, and takes the AM class lead in 8th overall.
Indeed he does, and Rushworth getting cycled back into the pack here and actively getting overtaken by Damien Owen Harris here at the moment. Harris might be had to be careful here because he risks getting boxed in by the car ahead, but he still gets himself to the inside for turn number 2 and sends one down and in on Clibbins as well. Forces Clibbins to go wide and push all the way out there, lose all of his momentum. 2 spots in one corner for Damien Harris in the number 53. That was a ballsy move.
Certainly was. We said Damien Owen Harris had a pretty bruising encounter, certainly in the closing stages of the meeting at Road Atlanta 2 weeks ago. And right now he's got a snarling pack of axe murderers queuing up behind him right now, so he's got to be careful here as well. But great run from Ben Gregory there in 8th place, then top of the AM class. Oh, as Guinness. Where is Guinness got up to? He's up in 13th. He's got McFarlane right beside him as Clibbins goes up the curb. You don't want to do that too often. And did he make it through?
He made it.
Clibbins.
Somehow he had to take the shortcut at Skyline, but somehow that number 13 has made it. He's trying to get out of the way of everyone, but there's nowhere really to get out of the way. Coming down this section, slots himself in ahead of Mark Johnson here, and obviously he would have had a slowdown penalty to serve there as well due to cutting across Skyline. But yeah, that was well saved there by Clibbins. Meanwhile, battle further ahead, Blackhall getting past Newman, and that was very much negotiated, it seems.
It would appear so. Yeah, of course, the Pure Sims cars in the white, black and yellow, they're at the top of the team standings right now, so that's definitely got a factor. Clibbins, oh, hard as they come into the chase. Clibbins, and it was one of the RD cars. Was it Mark Johnston? Oh, it's been a bruising encounter for Mark Johnston, but yeah, they both get together there as they head down into the chase. Marcel Fritsch is going to try and get by as well. Looks like Johnston's got a lot of damage. Should have maybe gone into the pits to get that fast repair possibly.
Yeah, and,
oh, he's off.
Yeah, that situation was all caused by Nick Clibbins getting 2 tyres into the grass and just spearing himself into Johnson on his left-hand side. So yeah, that was not fantastic there. As far as that entire situation, the grass can bite here on iRacing in particular. It does. It's something that you should avoid in most cases, I get the feeling. Meanwhile, side by side between Marcel Fritsch and Nick Clibbins. So Clibbins continuing to be involved with the action here. He gets out of the way of Fritsch, though, on the way into turn 2. So potentially nursing a bit of damage from that car-to-car contact.
Yeah, quite possibly. And yeah, that damage can really help you going down the straight. It really not help you going down the straight, excuse me. So yeah, you've got to watch out for that one. But Morgan Butler holding a nice advantage now, 1.3 seconds back to Craig Williams, who has his hands full with Jake Blackhall. Pete Newman providing a bit of rear gunner support to Blackhall as well. Dan Cortum in 5th. So very much a Pure Sims heavy top 5 at the moment. The Sim RC cars, the first of them is now Guinness, is it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling back to the field now. Yeah, first Sim RC car out there will be Guinness P12 here at the moment. So it's in stark contrast to the Pool Sims cars that we have much more nearer the front, and in fact leading this race at the moment in the form of Morgan Butler in the number 3 Lancia. Meanwhile, further behind we have movements to the inside. Miguel Freitas looking at the inside of Cortum, while Cortum was also looking at the inside of Rodriguez there in that situation. We're coming up towards the halfway point now, and still these battles get undecided. Oh, there's a big block there in the background going on. This is in and around Guinness, by the way. Guinness gets shoved out onto the grass by Stolzenberg. That won't be appreciated whatsoever. Guinness losing spots. He even loses one to his championship rival of McFarlane. It's P1 and P2 in the pro points going side by side through turn number 1. This is absolutely crucial for McFarlane to get this done, but Guinness has the overlap still on the driver's left-hand side, trying to get the draft from the 2 cars ahead, but Stolzenberg will move across and try and give the draft to McFarlane instead. Although I don't know how much that is helping at this stage. It's going to be a battle into turn 2 here with Guinness on the inside. We've seen how being on the outside is not the best place to be here, and once again the outside rears its ugly head, and McFarlane loses the position to Guinness, and now loses it to Savinovic and Frank as well.
Oh yeah, that didn't work out at all for McFarlane. Being on that outside line, you're right, Cornery. It's almost got I'm sure they've got magnets in that wall. It just seems to suck you out of the kind of groove there. It goes, if you get the corner right, you're on camber, and if you get it wrong, you're off camber. And well, that's really cost Ross McFarlane there, and it's kind of let Guinness off the hook a little bit, because he did get pretty nerfed out there by Stolzenberg, I think it was.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that there were other Sim RC cars involved in that one that definitely weren't going to let McFarlane get himself back in line. So the freight train was in full effect from the perspective of the number 1 car. It's always just have to say, oh, what's that? Nick Clibbins Clibborn's having an issue, and someone else involved in that as well. Is that Johnston, potentially?
Oh, round 2. I'll have a look then and see what Clibborn's just has his own mistake, and then does he somehow misses everybody.
And what happens to... Is this a rejoin? Oh, it was. Oh, no, it's not, actually. Oh, this is the first lap. I think it's Clibborn's has had another instance since then, I believe. Unless he did the exact same thing there as he did on lap number 1.
It's never good if you're having to compare incidents.
Yeah.
Multiple.
Oh, slow through there. Pulls it to the side of the circuit. Interesting. I'm not sure what to make of that one, to be honest. It's not often that a replay stops me.
Yeah, it's certainly not been a race to forget for Clibbons. Yeah, gets up on the curb and biff, straight into the and Johnson very much the innocent party there. That's, who was that?
Oh, another one. That incident was way bigger than our first appearance.
Wow.
My word. So Johnston was involved in that one, it seems. Maybe Sam Smith as well, potentially. We'll have to get confirmation of that one because we have had a lot of retirements here on this lap. Malcolm was the final car to come through on that one. He narrowly dodged what was going on. Here's a replay. 42. Oh.
Ouch.
That was Neil Rocks. Gary.
Dear me. Well, just under 7 minutes to go. Craig Williams still in the fight here. Morgan Butler's lead has come back a bit. It's actually now just under a second. It was quite a bit over a second. So Williams and Blackwell, they've rallied. And I think you're right, Connery. At the very, very top end of Top Gear, that Audi's just got a little bit of an edge. And I guess when you're in the slipstream of the car in front, you can really flaunt that.
He really can, and second place with a potential top speed advantage on a final lap when you're within drafting distance of the leader. Those are the ingredients for a potential pass in the final lap, but it's not over here by any means. We've still got 6 minutes left to go. Fighting in behind, though, in and around Guinness as he tries to improve position over Kortum. He does get himself past there, and Guinness and Kortum is just sort of hung out to dry a little bit on the Exeter chase. And Harris makes his way through, but it seems like that Guinness has gotten a couple of taps on basically every panel of his car over the course of this race, but nothing too significant, and he still resides P7.
Yeah, it has certainly got through it well. McFarlane back in 13, so it's not going well for McFarlane in this race, and this would actually mean that after 2 races out of 3, Guinness has got a bigger haul of points than McFarlane out of this meeting so far.
Well, battles continue on. Here comes Guinness past Freitas, and Freitas didn't make that too hard whatsoever either. So Guinness being helped a huge amount here. Meanwhile, further back, is that Ben Gregory having a bit of an issue on the outside of turn 2? It was, and now he's going to lose a whole bunch of spots. Yeah, getting trapped on the outside there into T2 is absolute murder if you get yourself in that situation.
I think he's playing it safe as Ben Gregory. I really do. I think he saw a melee of really hot pro-class cars coming through and thought, you know what, you guys come on by. I'm not in a fight with you. I'm in a fight for this for this AM championship. And if Gregory can hold the position that he's in now and run the pace that he's running, he'll have 2 AM class wins out of 2 from this meeting, and that of course will solidify his position at the top of those AM standings.
Yeah, indeed he will. And yeah, it's been an interesting time here for him, at least in the first 2 races. Of course, we'll be pending a steward's decision on the incident they had in race number 1 with Mark Johnson, which he has admitted guilt to. So I think they'll probably be pretty slam dunk as far as the stewards are concerned. It's just a matter of how significant the penalty will be, whether or not it takes him over the threshold for a qualifying ban or anything like that. So Yeah, watch this space with regards to that. Meanwhile, Esteban Rodriguez getting himself an attempt potentially on Pete Newman, but will stay in behind for now. Here is Craig Williams. What's happened? P5.
Yeah, something's gone wrong there for Craig Williams. He was up in second, not far from. He was about 0.8 of a second from our leader Morgan Butler. So something has happened to the 77 of Craig Williams.
He got tagged by a blinking Jake Blackhall. On the previous lap, and it was, I'm afraid, action at a distance is a phrase I like to use for
digital aerowake.
Yeah, is the term that I like to use now with regards to that. So yeah, unfortunate, very unfortunate for that bright orange Audi. Keeping in the race though, didn't get significant damage from it, and well, still within striking distance of those two cars that passed them as a result. So. Yeah, still in it.
Yeah, and still holding a top 5 position at the moment as well. So yes, it could have gone all. The thing is, it can just all be over just like that here at Bathurst, and you don't even need to make your own mistake. You can come over the crest of a hill, and then all of a sudden there's a car broadside across the road, and there's nothing you can do. And this is where a good spotter is so helpful at a circuit like Bathurst, who's always ahead of the game. If you've got a spotter who's just keeping an eye ahead of you, really makes a difference.
It is absolutely huge, and you need to leverage all the sort of advantages that you can get here in a race like this. Those extra eyeballs are certainly a big help, but we're getting very close to the end of this one now. Butler's heading his way through the chase here at the moment, so given the lap times, this will be the start of the final lap for Butler this next time through, as he's currently heading up towards the final corner.
Yeah, as Morgan Butler will be, one lap to go now for him. He's had a really strong run, managed the gap very well. Can Blackhall do anything about it? It'll be a big ask now as well, but our championship leader, Corentin Guinness, up to 6th place from 16th on the grid, and really impressive.
Sorry, I was on a replay there. I do apologise. But Rodriguez and Newman were briefly going to go side by side there, further up the order. You might have seen some position swap around there. Meanwhile, behind here, you have Cortum and Frank going at it. McFarlane's involved in the thick of things here as well. He's going to want to make up all these positions here on the final lap if he's going to have any chance of reducing the points delta to Corentin Guinness, who has had a great race too.
Yeah, Guinness has a superb run of things, as well as Williams going to make a move here on Pete Newman. And does he get the move done? Yes, just about. Guinness in there as well, so Guinness could be set to make up another couple of positions here if this last lap goes to plan. Meanwhile, McFarlane, he's being surrounded by Guinness's teammates, some RC cars, and that's really not a nice place to be for him, as Williams now holds it all the way up the straight there, so he's up into 4th position. It's maybe a story of what could have been there for Craig Williams, because he's shown really good late race pace.
Does Guinness want to go side by side with the Pure Sims car the last lap here? That's probably not the wisest choice if he wants to keep his positions compared to McFarlane here at the moment. But he is looking all over the back of Pete Newman here. Very risky coming through the mountain section for our championship leader in the pro class, but again, nothing comes of it this time around. Coming through McPhillamy Park, and of course into that famous skyline section as well. Another little look from Guinness in that instance as well. He's been looking all over the place here in a good way in terms of putting on the pressure, but maybe he'll just have to settle for P6 here at the end of the day. But he certainly doesn't look settled with the P6, does he?
No, definitely not. It would be definitely wise to settle for the P6, but I just don't think that's his style. He's just so on it all the time, so confident with what he's able to do. Let's see if he can make a move and get another spot done here as well. But you're right, Conroy, it's definitely not without risk as they come down into the chase. But here he goes. Here comes Guinness.
Guinness alongside Newman, side by side in towards the chase between a Pure Sims and a Sim RC car, but this time it ends up with Guinness on top. Meanwhile, side by side for P2. Morgan Butler wins this race, by the way, but he doesn't. well, he gets himself through the final corner just about. I'm not sure what happened to Butler there, as he does take the race win here in race number 2. Meanwhile, Newman falling down the order slightly. What has happened to him? He's slow coming across the start-finish line there. A bit of chaotic ending there. I didn't expect Blackwell to be so close to your race leader through those final couple of moments there. Oh, there we go. There's the AM class winner there as Benjamin Gregory headed his way through. Oh, that one, well, there was like 5 different places to look at all at the same time there, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, wow, certainly was. And yeah, good drive there from Ben Gregory. Another AM class win in the bag, but yeah, there's something afoot there. Guinness did get that position on Newman. So Blackhall has... Oh, well, I don't know what happened there. Blackhall is already on the back of the number 3 car, Morgan Butler.
Yeah, he just gets a huge draft here.
Yeah,
that's
big
the
one.
only way I could explain it. Maybe potentially Butler had to save a little bit of fuel towards the ends there just to try and get himself across the line. But, you know, that's the other situation. In towards the chase there, forcing Butler to go defensive. Oh, and that was the reason why they were so close, sliding through the corner, side by side, down the little hill here, in towards Murray's. It was way, way closer than we could have imagined it being. Butler does take the race win in a very, very stressful fashion.
Oh yeah, that and what if you're the team manager, Pierce Sims, as well, seeing them clattering into each other on the last race from a certain 1-2 as well. Wowee.
Here we go then. Well, before we get to our race results, we have to sort out a reverse grid pole position sitter for race number 3. So let's get that spinny wheel stopped at some points on this situation. Let's see, P21, P23. P23 is our third biggest reverse grid spot. So that's going to be, let's see, looking further down the order, it is Jamie Rushworth. So Jamie Rushworth in the number 6 car gets himself a reverse grid pole position. So that's going to be that situation there heading into race 3. But here's a look at the unofficial race results from race 2. Morgan Butler takes the race win by 2/10 of a second back to Jake Blackwell. Then we've got Esteban Rodriguez P3 with Craig Williams P4. Brendan Guinness with an exemplary 5th place finish here with Pete Newman P6. Miguel Freitas P7, David Owen Harris P8, Wojciech Sudek P9, and Jürgen Frank P10. Ross McFarlane finishes P11 yesterday, wasn't able to scythe his way through the field as efficiently as Guinness was, and got freight trained at one point as well, which certainly didn't help. Dominic Kortum in P12 with Bram van Putten P13. You got Constantin Stolzenberg in P14. Ben Gregory, another AM class win for the 113. Rick Rabia P16. Daniel Martin P2 in AM with James Holman P18 overall. Carl Johnston P19 overall with Neil Stevenson in P20. Further down, you've got John Roberts, Sean Gardner, Jamie Rushworth, Rob Turner, Rob Sutherland rounds out the top 25 cars. Then 26th, you got Marcel Fritsch with Rafael Jars P27, Steen Ledger P28, Nick Clibbins and Scott Malcolm rounds out the top 30. And then our final couple of cars, good couple of laps down. Neil Rocks, Mark Johnson, Sam Smith all involved in incidents over the course of this second race. So, race 2 in the bag here at Mount Panorama. Again, it's these races are just so interesting because you never know what might happen on any given race, especially given we factor in the reverse grids here. And Morgan Butler getting himself a race win. Started P5 here today as well. A great performance from the number 3 Pure Sims driver.
Yeah, very good, and keeping his cool on that last lap as well to hold off Blackhall at the last moment. Very, very impressive indeed. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, incredible stuff as well. Blackhall with a P2. Again, another great finish, especially considering he was one of the drivers that had a qualifying ban for race number 1. So he got a bit lucky with the reverse grid, and well, you can get lucky with the reverse grid, but if you don't capitalize on it, then it's worth nothing. So, but that's what Jake Blackhall absolutely did here. He started P6, got up into P2. Craig Williams, very well done to holding on to those positions in that Audi. Of course, started pole position, finished as P4. What could have been if he didn't get a little bit of contact there in that one as well? He could have finished inside those podium spots. So lots of things, lots of stories hanging towards this race 3. Main one, though, being that the gap in terms of positions that Guinness was able to establish between himself and McFarlane, that is very significant.
It is, hugely so. I mean, they were glued together for the kind of first half of the race, and then that little shuffle where it looked like it might have gone against Guinness, he kind of got run out onto the paint by Stolzenberg, and the way that domino effect then happened after that, it put McFarlane back, and Guinness managed to escape. So there's been a couple of really close brushes. I'd imagine it's been a pretty heart-racing evening so far for Corrington Guinness.
Yeah, it has, it's definitely been a less relaxed one for Corrington Guinness. It's probably fair to say, but it's been a positive one so far, at least in terms of his championship hopes. So he's got to carry that momentum into race number 3 now. However, it's going to be a little bit of a tougher task to try and get ahead of McFarlane this time around, because McFarlane's starting quite a bit further up the grid than him in this race 3. So McFarlane's going to need to capitalize on that one as well, because otherwise, if again Guinness is able to get ahead and establish a points difference in race 3 as well, I think McFarlane could potentially consider the championship over at that point.
I think McFarlane's just got to go all out for the win here. A win is really all that will do for McFarlane at this stage of the championship, and then see what happens to Guinness. If McFarlane can get that win, Guinness hits trouble, it's game on for when we head to Montreal in a week's time. And Montreal, I mean, if you think Bathurst is potential for drama and for controversy and incidents, well, Montreal is right up there as well. Another circuit with walls at either side of the circuit, so any form of issue, and it can go bad very, very quickly. So these are really kind of turbulent waters that Guinness has got to plot his way through. He's done a great job of that so far in both of these first races, but really they've got to get through these next few races at Bathurst and then Montreal next week to try and get that championship lead as solid as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. We might be setting the stage for a potential championship win for Corrington Guinness here coming towards the end of the season. But again, things aren't mathematically secure at the moment. We can't say officially in terms of that, but it's certainly looking like the points gap is starting to get a little bit larger. And the larger it is heading into these final 2 race meetings, the tougher it's going to be for McFarlane to do anything about it. At least on his own merits, he would require potentially a couple of instances coming Guinness' way to be able to do anything about the gap at that point. However, drivers, they like to win championships based off of merit rather than luck, and I'm no doubt McFarlane is still going to be continuing to push hard all the way into the end of the season, even if the gap gets so big.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, he'll know what happened last season. Like I say, when we sat at round 10 last year, it looked all Guinness's championship, and it unravelled, and that's it can happen again, and that's McFarlane will be he'll be keeping going until the very last checkered flag, or until it's absolutely mathematically impossible. And of course, don't forget Pure Sims versus SimRC. That team championship battle is mighty important, and we've seen that things are just getting more and more fraught between those two outfits on track. I mean, whatever is said, the way that they race each other is getting fiercer and fiercer all the time. So coming into that teams championship, Ross has been a Pure Sims driver for a long time, so yeah, it's going to be important.
I mean, they are the 2 big touring car teams here on iRacing, pretty much. So they're always going to meet each other, no matter if it's in leagues like this, whether or not it's in the in official races or in the IMSA season that we're starting here on RaceSpotTV as well. They're going to meet on track together a lot. So hopefully they'll be able to keep it clean and not too much of a contentious rivalry is formed. But rivalries are still good. But potentially ones that where they get in each other's faces a lot and door bang each other out of the way, perhaps not as fun.
Well, look at Bathurst. What is Bathurst built upon? Well, really, the Bathurst 1000 is the race here. And what is that race built upon? Yes, there are rivalries between individual drivers, but Ford versus Holden, it's an age-old rivalry. Yes, coming up soon, it's going to be Ford versus Chevrolet, but it's the same, GM, Ford versus GM, whatever you want to call it, and it's almost tribal. So, and look how many people it draws, both watching on television and to the track as well. So, yeah, having a proper, almost tribal but not quite, battle between two big teams with great drivers. You just look up and down the roster of both of these teams. They're really, really impressive. The depth. I mean, tonight we don't have Kieran Harrison here, unfortunately. But Sim RC, you look at their lineup: Guinness, Harrison, Bram Van Putten is very fast. Jurgen Frank, and then of course on the Pure Sim side, Jake Blackhall, Ross McFarlane, and so many more. So it's a proper all-star battle.
And, well, let's get ourselves all set, potentially, for a race number 3, because a lot could be riding on the line here. We're getting later into the evening here at Mount Panorama as well, so that's going to be another thing that's going to factor in very slightly here. Track temperature down significantly compared to race 2, so that is going to be, well, more grip available for these drivers, and definitely not as slick as we saw it in race 2, so maybe that might help the situation on the outside of turn 2, although it's more the track geometry that is the standout factor there rather than track heating. It might just help maintain the overlap though. But yeah, again, still no safety cars so far. I'm very surprised, Peter. I'm very, very surprised that... I'm jinxing it now, am I? I'm very surprised that we haven't had a safety car. Oh, I'm going to regret that, aren't I?
Well, it seems like the drivers have been very well briefed, and I think also coming into this race, we had a very chaotic round at Road Atlanta a couple of weeks ago with quite a lot of cars spinning off it, what have you, and I wonder, and of course then a lot of drivers coming into this round with qualifying bans. I do wonder if maybe that's been the case. Some drivers have come here a little bit more shy because of carrying those penalties or being close to getting those penalties. Who knows? But or they've just been very, very well warned prior to the race by the stewards and the organisers to really take it easy on that opening lap. Who knows? Let's see if they can make it 3 from 3. I think that would be an achievement in itself, because it is narrow going through that opening part of the circuit.
Yeah, incredibly narrow. Not a lot of room to manoeuvre. If someone spins in front of traffic, you're just going to have to slam on the anchors and stop and regroup under the safety car. But again, all these situations can happen here at Bathurst, and they have happened in previous disciplines, in previous leagues, in previous seasons. It's always a threat, but it's one that's not reared its head so far here in the World Touring Car Series. We're about 2 minutes away from setting our starting grid here for this third race. It is going to be, I believe we said it was Jamie Rushworth on pole position here for race number 3. Good opportunity for him to get himself a good finish here today. Try and repeat what Craig Williams was able to do in that previous event with scoring a top 5. That's all that you can really ask for potentially as a reverse grid pole position sitter here, given the draft lock is so strong.
Yeah, that's where it's you've got to make the most as you can from that good grid spots, and I think for Jake Blackhall, it's really important to make the most of that.
Yep, it really, really is. So having a little bit of a dive in to the standings here, at least coming into this one. Of course, Guinness led by 77 points. That, I get the feeling, might extend at the very end of the proceedings here today. Remember, we do have to factor in drop weeks as well. And this is towards the end of the season is when we start to include these. McFarlane actually has a more... what should I say? More I was going to say significant drop, but it's kind of the opposite way around because he has a worse result that he's been able to drop than Guinness, if that makes sense. He's minus,
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, because he had a much worse. So McFarlane's worst result is much worse than Guinness's worst result. Is what I'm trying to say.
Which means he'll have to drop more points from his existing total. Yeah, so it doesn't work in his favour.
Yeah, so again, that's just another thing that he's going to be up against here. So that's it's a tough road. It's a tough road for McFarlane here heading into the final rounds of the season, but not over. Absolutely not over, especially considering what can happen here at Bathurst. But we're going to get ourselves the starting grid then for race number 3 imminently here, and we'll see how they line up. But we're thankful that you're able to join us here on RaceSpotTV for the World Touring Car Series. We've got one more race to go, another 20-minute event here to get going on with, and well, starting grid just came up on my screen. It is Jamie Rushworth getting himself onto a pole position here with a whole bunch of AM drivers right behind him. That's Sean Gardner, John Roberts, Neil Stevenson, Carl Johnson, and well, James Holman's not an AM driver, but he starts in P6. Daniel Martin in P7 with Luke Arabia P8, Benjamin Gregory P9, Konstantin Stolzenberg in P10, Bram van Putten P11 with Dominic Corton P12. Bit at the back, you got Ross McFarlane, then Jurgen Frank with Wojciech Savidovic and Damien Owen Harris. Miguel Freitas and Pete Newman were lined up on P17, P18 respectively. Then in the borderline of the top 20, you have Guinness, Williams, Rodriguez, Blackwell, Butler and Turner rounding out the top 24. Of course, then you got everyone else starting further back. These are exactly as they finished in race number 2. Neil Rocks and Sam Smith will comprise the final row of the starting grid here for our 3rd race of the evening. We're about to go green once again in the World Touring Car Series at Bathurst. It's Jamie Rushworth from pole position. Let's see if he's able to hold on here on the mountain. Here we go. Once again, it was a great start. Fantastic start from Carl Johnson. So good that I was suspecting that was a jump start, but potentially, 3 wide. Someone's dropping back through the order there, as is actually Jamie Rushworth didn't actually take the start here, apparently. So a bit of confusion, at least in the early goings here, as we snake our way down the mountain straight. It's Dan Martin from P4 on the starting grid that leads this race down in towards turn 2. It's a whole gaggle of cars further behind, however, as they all try and fight for the position. Lloyd Rabia down the inside, Ross McFarlane here in this instance. McFarlane's up 7 spots already out of nowhere.
Oh no, we got a spinner in front there. It's one of the Ignium cars and takes, I think, Savidovic with him, and oh dear, we've got a track blockage. And it's, yeah, unsurprisingly, a safety car has to be called there. And what does that mean? How is that shuffled out? Oh, McFarlane already up into 7th spot.
Wow.
What happened to Martin? Dan Martin was leading and he's now in 3rd.
Oh, that was so confusing. That entire sequence of the start there. Martin pushed wide out of turn 2. That's why he fell back through the order. So now it's another RD Sim Sports car. It's James Holman, and that now leads this race. So lights on atop the Porsche pace car. I think we might need to use this caution period to recap on what the hell went on in the first portion of the race there, because we had Rushworth who didn't take a start, even though he's reverse grid pole position. Remind you, we had Carl Johnson, Rob Turner go out early on here as well. A lot of shuffling as far as the front of the pack was concerned. Biggest mover in all of that, tied biggest mover actually, Esteban Rodriguez. He got 11 spots out of that entire situation. Steve Ledger up 11 as well.
Very impressive gains there in that early stage as well. And for those drivers who did get caught up in that early melee, they can come into the pits, take their fast repair, and then get back out and catch the pace car before we go back green again. So that's a great opportunity for them to keep themselves in the game. But I would think that Ross McFarlane will be very, very happy with how the start of this race has gone. The big potential stumbling block is Jurgen Frank behind him, but also Bram van Putten ahead as well. Let's see what happens. One of the SimRC cars, I think it was Bram van Putten, I think, trying to make his way through and just clipped the Ignum car, and it was all arms and elbows after that.
Yeah, indeed it was, and everyone just multiple cars coming to a stop there on the mountain, and that's why the safety car has been called. We do have manual cautions here in this series, and I'm the one that does them. I'll be completely transparent about that. That responsibility has been bestowed upon me by the race administrators. In that instance, with a track blockage, that is one of our criteria for calling a safety car. So that's the situation that we have now. So, it gives us a chance to, again, recap the order. So James Holman leads from Ben Gregory, who is back to the lead in terms of AM class, in and amongst all of that. Dan Martin in P3. A lot of the AM drivers got completely torpedoed that, at least the ones that started near the front.
Yeah, it's, let's see what now. Was there a jump start? Are we looking at here? Dan Martin, did he jump the start? No, Dan Martin's there on the left. Doesn't appear so.
No, it was just a rocket ship from the left-hand side. Both drivers that started on the left.
Yeah. Oh, and that's, yeah, the sea just kind of parted in front of Dan Martin, made his way through. Worked out really, really well. And there's Ben Gregory at the kind of just at the bottom of the shot there, of course, AM championship leader. And Dan Martin really does need to score an AM class win in this race to try and claw some points back on Gregory, but it's been a perfect 2 from 2 so far in the AM class for Gregory in that multicoloured Hyundai Veloster for Boosted Motorsport.
And here's what happens. Dan Martin, just overcooked it through turn 2.
So frustrating.
Yeah, tagged the wall as well. That was a simple mistake to make, and it's a mistake under pressure as well. Of course, you know, maintaining that race lead, first time, potentially first time in the race lead in this entire season, and then you're going to do that into turn 2. It's definitely not pretty.
I think someone needs to give Benny the pace car driver some training. He needs to remember to put his lights on.
Here's Daniel Martin's start then.
Rocket.
Yeah, absolute rocket ship. The initial getaway was reasonable by the cars on the right-hand side. It's just that sort of second and third phase of the acceleration where Dan Martin especially was able to get it going, and that's an absolute send, isn't it? Oh, that is definitely eyes wide open trying to get his way through that corner.
Well, and they're just did everything right at the first corner, but then the second corner, that's just easy mistake to make, just a little bit over ambitious. Let's see what Gregory, I think, must have got a super start as well. Rabier on the right hand side. Yeah, the Hyundai Veloster hooks up really nicely, holding the inside line here, and again the sea kind of parks in front of him as well.
It does.
Good exit.
And yeah, maintains the speed, maintains the momentum, and is able to get by and through on the number 69 car of Carl Johnson there in that instance, who got caught up in the early incident in through turn 1 there. And well, Gregory got through that very comfortably. And of course, this is where Dan Martin pushes wide, gets into the wall, and Gregory through into AM class lead.
A fair thump of the wall there too, it must be said. But how much of an effect has it had? We don't know. It's now, who's that going in? Frank. Jurgen Frank goes in, and that's Christmas come
Meatball
early
flag
for Ross McFarlane.
Meatball flag. That's race control speak for come down on towards the pit lane. You have a damaged car that we can't have out there anymore. So Frank pulls it down and in. It's the same case for Savidovic as well. That's why Savidovic is also on the pit lane, getting that meatball flag sorted out and getting the required repairs done to make sure that clears. And it doesn't seem like it was long in terms of the required repairs for Savidovic. He was stopped in the box for like 2 seconds, and then he's straight back out.
Fast repair. He would have taken a fast repair.
Of course.
Yeah. Lights are off on the pace car, so we will go back to green flag racing. Probably with about 9 or 10 minutes left on the clock. depending how enthusiastic Benny is feeling.
Yeah, I mean, his pacing speed here is 88 kilometers an hour. So very specific
Quite quick
figure.
in certain places.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is, but definitely breaking those speed limits even on dual carriageway public roads. But Jürgen Frank's the onboard we're looking at the moment. Just look at this swarm of cars ahead. Oh, he sent it down the middle off of.
There is a gap here.
Yeah, there is a gap, but it's one that's always going to close, and that's what caused the whole track blockage behind.
Yeah, I don't think the Ignium car knew that he was there. Very, very difficult when it's so tight in those early stages. Of course, our Porsche 911 pace car here as well. It's a GT3 Touring specification. Doesn't have the rear wing, of course. I did see a tweet earlier on. There were some climate protesters who decided to glue themselves to the floor in the Porsche museum, or the dealership in the Porsche museum earlier. The problem was they decided to do it beside a Panamera hybrid, petrol-electric hybrid, and also beside a GT3 Touring, which is the wrong GT3 to sit next to, because if they'd sat beside the regular GT3 with a wing, that would be fine, but the GT3 Touring doesn't have a wing, so it saves fuel by being more aerodynamically efficient, less drag, but also less material usage by not having the wings. So poor research on their part there.
So you're dropping all these Porsche facts bombs. I can't keep up. I'll be honest, I can't keep up most of the time with these knowledge drops that you're putting on the broadcast. It's I just have to sit here in awe a lot of the time, just saying, I guess so. I guess that's correct.
It's like you could be talking total rubbish, but I have no idea if you are or not.
You say it with such conviction that I just like, well, that's obviously true. That's obviously the case. You
could be Prime Minister.
I mean, that vacancy is open now, so.
Shall I put an application in?
Would you last longer than a lettuce, though? That's the question.
Ooh. I don't know. That's a high benchmark these days.
Apparently so. Apparently so. British political memes, everyone. If you're not in tune with what we're talking about here,
help us.
Help us. Yeah. Things are collapsing. Help. But how do I segue that into a race? I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But we'll get a restart here. We're around about 9 minutes to go, and you can see that. We're already backing up the field here. Is James Holman behind the pace car, and potentially might be setting up for an early run here, potentially. Just pedal to the metal on the way down in towards the final corner. He goes now. Flashing of the lights from the car behind. We're restarted here at Bathurst for our final race of the evening in the World Touring Car Series. It is Holman that leads from Ben Gregory from Dan Martin on the way down in towards turn number 1. And they're all single filed out, of course, due to the restart under the safety car. But things might change as we head down the mountain straight once again. More flashing of the lights. Was that Stolzenberg or Arabia? Couldn't quite tell how many cars further down the order that came from. But Holman actually getting himself a bit of a gap already back to Gregory. That's a very good restart from the 104.
Yeah, great opportunity for James Holman here in the Pro class to try and make a breakaway with a couple of AM class cars behind him. But I do think Bram Van Puten's got to be the danger man here in the number 23 machine. Bram is so quick, and there he goes, he's going for it straight away. Gets a move done on Dan Martin, and Dan Martin gets a little bit squeezed out as well. Remember, Dan Martin is carrying some sort of damage, we think, but it doesn't seem to be holding him back too much. Van Putten trying to squeeze through as well. They're side by side as they head up towards Solomon Park and McPhilby Park. Oh, they almost touch as well, and Dan Martin really well defended there, keeping Jürgen Frank at Bram Van Putten at bay.
Doing very well indeed in the RD Sim Sports number 70 car. E3 for the moment for him, but let's see if that translates into a podium finish at the end of 7.5 minutes that we have to go. It's a significantly shorter race distance due to the safety car here, and Well, if there's another track blockage, we won't be able to get another safety car in. That took around about 11, 12 minutes for that safety car period to be complete. So there's going to be no time to have another one. So green flag all the way to the end here. Dan Martin's going to come under threat here from Van Putten once again in towards the chase. Van Putten gets himself to the inside for the little kink. Back end out for Van Putten and gets the pass done on the inside, but he's overcooked it into the chase. He's out into the grass and the rejoin's awful. Oh my word. Dan Martin's been absolutely collected and absolutely mugged there, and we're going to get 4 wide potentially into the final corner as a result of all of that one. Oh my word, and it continues on as well. Guinness is in the middle of this, by the way, and somehow, out of everything, gets himself through unscathed, and it's McFarlane that falls back to the order. It's a nightmare for the number 1.
I have to say, that was, for someone of Bram Van Putten's experience, that was sloppy. He really did come back very harshly onto the road, and yeah, Dan Martin really did pay the significant price there. Ben Gregory, he's cock a hoop. He's leading in the AM class, and he's second overall. He's got a 3.8 second gap back to Stolzenberg in third, who's got a whole world of problems with Rabier, Guinness, Rodriguez all behind him. And hold on a minute, how did McFarlane go from 7th to 10th and Guinness went from outside the top 10 to 5th? What? These little exchanges, there's been 3 key points across these 3 races that have really played in the favour of Guinness. Not by, I'm not saying it's by luck, but that's how they've turned out.
More by circumstance than by luck.
Yeah,
you'd have to
reactions, etc. It's a big mix of things, but they have all gone Guinness's way.
Yeah, indeed they have. Here's a replay of what happens. Big moment.
Yeah,
this is
a hard left hand down and straight into the oncoming traffic.
Yeah, we're on board with Rabier there, who great heads-up driving, spotted it and was able to work his way through. And here's the view of the absolute carnage that it caused behind with the 3 wide. I'm pretty sure they went 4 wide at one point through that final corner. Just so chaotic, but cars getting through that one. It could have caused another big secondary incident very easily, that whole situation, but it didn't, and everyone's able to continue on. Here's another replay. Here's Miguel Freitas is on board, says he saw everything. He goes all the way into the grass. 2 tyres in the white line is fair, Peter, isn't it?
Yeah, that was certainly on the edge. He took big risk there, really big risk. Just keeping it in, keeping the foot in. It did pay off, but it could have gone either way. But nevertheless, who's that dinking to the inside?
Rabier.
That was Stoltz. Rabier, exactly. Yes, and Guinness. He's made his way up to 4th place, and again another big chunk of points if he can finish here. It's only going to be, this is the penultimate lap now. My math serves me right. Yes, this is the penultimate lap.
Indeed it is. I think your calculations are right there.
About 2 minutes 20, roughly.
Yeah, in that instance. So there we go. Big long string of cars down the mountain straight. It's absolutely fantastic to see these long shots down the straights. Race 2 winner Morgan Butler involved in a battle with Jake Blackwell, which was the guy he was fighting with at the end of race 2. So they're stuck together like glue here, working their way through the field, at least attempting to, and actually doing a pretty good job at it as well. They're both up 11 spots on the day. I'm always concerned when I hear the crash sound effects there, Peter, because you never know whether someone's just grazed the wall or if someone's absolutely been there.
I think that must wake some iRacers up in a cold sweat some nights with that horrible. We all know the sound, and it's giving me a shiver just thinking about it. That horrible metallic crunching sound that just sounds like, oh, that's my race over. But nevertheless, I tell you what, the AM coming into this round, the AM Championship looked pretty strong in the favour of Ben Gregory. If he can get this to the flag, 2nd overall, a treble, a perfect sweep. Now, who was that going slow? Ooh.
Not sure. Sure who was going slow. Sam Smith, potentially? It was hard to tell in that instance. Oh, it's Neil Rocks. Ooh.
Oh, rocks is off. Oh.
That's not an incident that you want to see through McPhillamay Park into Skyline.
Well, you're flat through there, aren't you, really? Or certainly very close to flat, depending on the car. And yeah, you don't want to have anything in the way there, because changing the line's difficult. Guinness now up to third as we come onto the final lap. I tell you what, he's, you know, he deserves his championship lead coming into this round. Oh, who's that off?
Rodriguez.
Oh, it's Rodriguez, yes. But yeah, coming back to Guinness, he really deserves the lead that he's accumulated, and he's been class, and he's really made the most of his opportunities. Yes, he might have got some rubs of the green, but he's made the very most of each of them. This has been a super night at the office for Guinness.
Biggest move of the day as well. Up 16 spots to where he started. He started at P19. Of course, the safety car would have the incident that's happened to trigger the safety car, and the safety car itself would have helped in that situation. But credit where credit's due. He's been absolutely fantastic today. Even though he hasn't been the fastest, he's been definitely the most comfortable in terms of results here, as far as the drivers at the top of the pro standings are concerned. But continuing on the fight here, McFarlane, speaking of top drivers towards the top of the pro standings, he's fighting it out with Damon and Harris here at the moment, and Rodriguez is in support from behind as well. But McFarlane, despite having a great start and gaining a whole boatload of positions, that whole situation with the big incident that we saw into the chase has completely ruined his race, because he was caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, and Guinness was in the exact right place at the right time, and it just so happened to be those times were the exact same time, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
absolutely. It certainly has fallen into place in a way. Now Guinness is right on the back of Gregory. I mean, we've seen Ben Gregory be very clever in terms of not fighting the pro class drivers too hard. He doesn't need to. They're not his rivals. But and of course, so this could be a little bit of a free kick here for Corentin Guinness. Another few vital points just to accumulate his advantage further. To come down. Oh, no, I'll be quiet. Gregory's been closing the door hard as they come into the chase.
Here we go. It is, of course, the final lap here as well between these two. It's James Holman for RD Sinsport that heads his way through the final corner to take a race win here at Bathurst, flashing the lights in celebration. But it's a battle for P2 going on behind, and it is Corentin Guinness that gets it done and comes through and finishes the race in second place. Ben Gregory, a podium finish for him as well, and another win in the AM class. But, oh my word. Guinness, take a bow, mate. Take a bow.
That could have gone really south quickly as well. I think it was a bit of a late move from Gregory. I think it would be fair to say, it's sort of a little bit later on there. I think so. Yeah, that was just before as they're coming through the chase, it really ran Guinness right out to the paint quite late on. But Guinness didn't panic, held the inside line, and here, yeah, it was routine there for someone of Guinness's caliber.
And well, Guinness, again, we can't sing his praises enough,
No.
let's just say. But also, the race winner, James Holman from RD Sinsport. That was a great performance here today in this race 3. Yes, he got a little lucky with the safety car. I mean, you got to take every single opportunity that's given to you, that's for sure, and that's exactly what he did. And was able to establish the gap after the restart as well, which was crucial to making sure that no one could really threaten him.
Yeah, just took that opportunity, grasped it, and did not look back. It had to do 4 laps. We had 9 minutes to go. It was almost perfectly 4 laps, and yeah, 4 perfect laps around Bathurst, and he's been rewarded with a win.
Yeah, indeed he has, and well, he'll be absolutely ecstatic about that. So will the rest of RD Simsports, I would have thought, as well. So here's the unofficial race results from race 3. James Holman wins from Corentin Guinness from Ben Gregory, and well, Gregory gets himself another AM class win as well. So he's sitting very pretty at the top of the AM standings after today, even if his result in race 1 gets affected. Constantin Stolzenberg will finish in P4 with Lacrabia P5, Miguel Freitas, Ross McFarlane, Damien Harris, Esteban Rodriguez, and Jake Blackwell round out the top 10 cars. P11 for Morgan Butler, who was our race 2 winner. Dominic Cortum in P12 with Pete New in P13. Steen Ledger P14. Craig Williams P15. Rafael Draj in P16. Dan Martin in P17 with Wojciech Swidovic in P18. Sam Smith P19 and Marshall Fritz rounds out the top 20 cars. And then we have a look at the top 30. So that's Rob Turner, Neil Stevenson, Rob Sutherland, John Roberts, Neil Rocks, Scott Malcolm, Nick Libbons, Jürgen Frank, Sean Gardner, Brad Van Putten. And those cars, the retirement from this race, Carl Johnson. We did have 33 cars to start the race evening. We are down to 31 in terms of the finishing results at the end of race 3. So there we go. It's all in the books now. Here, this race at Bathurst. We've got 2 more race meetings to go in the World Touring Car Series. A bit of a celebration there. I think that's from the RD Simsport folks with the lights and with the parade lap that they are completing at the moment.
They're going for the jump.
Yeah, they are. I thought this was going to happen potentially, and the Bathurst jump complete.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Execution needs to be worked on a little bit, but
that's hilarious with the Lotus 49. With the jump with the Lotus 49 is always fun.
Indeed. So we're waiting for our drivers to potentially come in for an interview here, but it seems like our waiting for interview room is rather sparse at the moment. It gives us a little bit of a chance, though, to talk about where we are heading next. We're heading to a street circuit. We are heading to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve on October the 27th. So exactly 1 week's time from now, we'll be heading to the home of the Canadian Grand Prix. So that's going to be a fantastic stage for our penultimate race meeting here in this series, and has many of the same intricacies of Mount Panorama, in a sense, where you don't have a lot of room to go if you get it wrong, is the main feature that I'm thinking of.
Very much so, and I would think that we'll have quite long trains forming as well. It's a real, although it's a street circuit, it's got a lot of kind of straights. It's a power circuit, it's a braking circuit, and yeah, I mean, I think coming down to that last chicane at the Wall of Champions, that's going to be one not to miss in a week's time.
And we're kind of stalling for time a little bit. We do have a driver, though. We got a driver in there, Ben Gregory. Thank you very much for coming in for an interview here. We were worried for a second there we wouldn't really get anyone, but thank you for turning up. It's a P3 in terms of overall results in this third race, but it's a handful of M-class wins over the course of this race meeting at Bathurst. How does it feel? Because you were quite far ahead in terms of points in the AM Championship coming into today. Surely at the end of today, you're going to be far ahead.
I'd hope so, yeah. I did not expect that, honestly. I was actually expecting a lot harder fight with Dan in that last race, but I feel really bad that he got caught up in an incident, I think, after the safety car, and it kind of put pay to that, unfortunately. But yeah, it's the first podium in a while. It's quite interesting. I think now I just need to keep my nose clean, really, even more than I tried tonight, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed indeed. And at least in terms of the driving out there, how did Bathurst treat you? Because we saw the good results that you were able to post up, but how was it from behind the wheel?
It was very really good. Everyone was giving very good. I think everyone knows the reputation of Bathurst. Everyone's very careful. Which I would also like to apologise again to Mark. Just made a misjudgment of how close we were, but everyone was relatively smart with how much space they were giving. A little bit of bullying from some of the faster guys, but it's not something we haven't dealt with before, at least.
Yeah, indeed. And how did the safety car actually affect race 3 there? Because obviously we explained that it's a significantly shortened race distance here due to how much time we had to spend under the safety car. Did that change your approach? Yeah,
massively. With the safety car basically cutting on race in half, I basically went from, okay, I need to just settle in and just try not to lose too many points and spots from the pros, to, I could actually make a podium run here if I keep playing my cards right. And yeah, it turned out I was right.
Yeah, you were absolutely correct. And how's next week looking though? Because we head to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Is that a track you're comfortable with? Just take me through your thoughts on that one.
I'm comfortable with it in a GT3. I've not actually really driven it in a TCR yet. So cold tyres should be quite interesting on the first lap. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. That's definitely one I'm going to be a bit more like, okay, we'll just do what we can here. Fuji is what I'm really looking forward to, though. So,
oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that one as well, because it just seems like a recipe for some fantastic action, especially with that long run in towards the heavy braking zone at turn 1. So that's going to be incredibly exciting. We're looking forward to the finale. We're looking forward to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and we're looking forward to seeing Ben Gregory potentially getting himself an AM class win. In terms of the points. There we go. I had to. But
it's been so close every single time. Don't jinx it.
I promise I won't from this point forwards. But thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
All right, that was Ben Gregory there, getting some good results on the board here in terms of this race at Bathurst to extend his championship lead in the AM class. Always very nice to talk to, is Ben, isn't he, Pierre?
He is, yeah. He's certainly in good spirits. No wonder with 3 wins out of 3. Super night at the office for him. And yeah, just got to get through next week. That's the main one. Through next week at Montreal, and can relax and enjoy his race at Fuji a bit more.
Yep, indeed. And, well, we're going to be looking forward to that as well. But that's going to be all that we have time for here in the World Touring Car Series at Bathurst. It was a very intriguing, a very action-packed 3 races that we've had here today. I've been Connery Medic, and I've been joined by the ever-wonderful and the ever-knowledgeable, especially about Porsche cars, Peter Mackay. We'll see you in a week's time, where you get to see more touring car action and more Porsche facts as well.